Everyone. Welcome to the Digital Equity Webinar Series. Today, we're going to talk about Introduction to AI and its use in the classroom. My name is Quiana Bannerman, and I'm the Director of the Maryland Center for Computing Education, and I'll be your host for this session today. Okay, next slide. Next slide. So now we're going to have an introduction by our guest speaker and our guest panelists. So Tim Dixon.
I'm Tim Dixon, and I worked in elementary schools for 26 years, many of those years as a computer science teacher. I've done a code.org facilitator. I worked with different tools in computer science, and I've done work with integrating AI with curriculum, creating lesson plans. And currently I'm working with MCCE and just as a consultant.
Thank you, Tim. Maria?
Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. My name's Maria. I'm the tech educator at the University of Maryland Extension. I was the first educator hired throughout the university for digital skills. And so far, we've reached around 20 different organizations just here in Southern Maryland. I generally work with libraries, local governments, senior centers, religious institutions, law enforcement agencies, and nonprofits to reach a diverse range of communities, including seniors and people with disabilities, youth, and low-income families. When I'm not working, you'll find me out painting. So yeah, I generally like gardening and painting in nature. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, next slide. Okay, Jack.
Hi, my name is Jack Bayne. I'm with the Carroll Technology and Innovation Council through a program called the American Connection Corps, which is a AmeriCorps program. Over my last year and a half of service with the Tech Council, we've engaged in different forms of teaching, mostly older adults through that Senior Planet program. We also do a lot of one-on-one tutoring, different wide variety ranges of people, all coming in at the same time. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Jack. Okay, next slide. Okay, Ron.
Good afternoon. My name is Ron Nicholson. One of the co-founders and currently serve as executive director for Because I Can. We're a 501c3 nonprofit located in Greenbelt, Maryland. Provides STEM education to students and adults in underserved communities. Because I Can, we conduct computer coding classes for grades K through 12 and AI classes for grades 6 to 12. We also conduct multilingual technology classes. They're both in English and Spanish. We are a member of the Prince George's County Artificial Intelligence Task Force. I spent over 30 years as a computer engineer for Georgetown University with their main campus technology department. My operational team brought virtualization to Georgetown in 2008, VMware, and I've studied computer science at North Carolina State University. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ron. All right, and Sarah is going to be joining us in just a little bit, so we can go ahead and move on to the next slide. All right, so now we're going to have our presentation by Tim Dixon, and he's going to present to us on an introduction to AI and its use in the classroom.
Thank you, Quiana. I'm going to share my slides, hopefully. We will see how this works. Okay, can everybody see those? Okay, it looks like it. Yeah, it's quite an honor to be here. I recognize a lot of the people that I've listened to and worked with before, and it's a great group. So we'll get started, go through a little bit. Here's our team. I'm on a presentation team, so I have to give them credit because some of these slides they helped create. So these are some of our friends throughout the state that host the MCCE webinars on AI and how to integrate it into education. The worst thing you can do about AI, whoops, let me get that back. The worst, oh, okay. Let me go back and share. Sorry about that. The worst thing you can do about education is ignore it. So with AI in education, because a lot of people are nervous, a lot of teachers we've encountered don't know what it is, what it does specifically, and they're afraid to use it. And a lot of districts in our state, not a fair amount, are just banning it because they're not sure how safe it is for their students to use. What is artificial intelligence? So it is a type of computer science that helps computers do things that normally need human intelligence. And these are some of the things it can see and hear. It can write books, create pictures. Johns Hopkins just released an article today about robots being able to take pictures of doctors doing surgery, and then they themselves are conducting surgery, the robots, and many other things. It's just each day, each week, something new and exciting comes up with AI and what it can do. And some of it's kind of scary. Different levels, artificial intelligence, and you can read through these: machine learning, the ability to learn, supervised and unsupervised. Neural networks defines connections between ideas. Deep learning is method that teaches computers to process data in a way that is inspired by the human brain, so that it's starting to become wiser and be able to do more things. And down to generative AI, actually taking information and creating something new from it. So a lot of copyright issues and things like that with books, pictures, movies, lots of things people feel are being taken away from them because AI is generating it with their ideas. And then we go on to, where did it start? Many people think AI just started last week or 2 years ago or 3 years ago. But as this timeline shows, AI's actually been with us since the 50s. And Alan Turing is kind of the godfather of AI and what he's done. And you can see the progression. AI systems use specific computer programs called algorithms to complete tasks. And the systems, AI is only as good as the algorithms and the data it has. So it's not in itself a superior intelligent being. It has to have good data, just like any computer program, and it has to have algorithms written in a way that makes it beneficial to use that data or productive. The more data, the better performance. And that's one of the big things now is companies competing on where to get data. Platforms are competing, and students right now are one of the big gold mines, because a lot of they're one of the few groups who really haven't had their data mined extensively. So that's kind of the concern. One of the concerns is protecting students' information and not letting people get access to it. And that's a concern of a lot of districts and teachers and school administrators. AI can be trained through different methods: supervised learning, train the AI model. Correct output is already where the correct output is already known. Unsupervised, where it must identify patterns. And reinforced learning, where it receives rewards or penalties for certain actions. So there's different types, different platforms to do different things. You could load the data and have it do something specific, like pertaining to medical information, financial information. And there's a big concern about AI making financial decisions because it seems risky to have it running the stock market, but it's another topic, another day. Chatbot. Most people are familiar with the chatbot model. It's designed to stimulate the conversation between humans. I'm sure if I ask, has anybody encountered a chatbot when they called to get information from a company or file a complaint or anything? We've all experienced chatbots, and in my opinion, they're not very fun, oftentimes not very useful, and can be extremely frustrating because you have an answer that can be resolved in 30 seconds and you spend 15 minutes online trying to rephrase your question and trying to get guided to the support that you would like. So at least I don't enjoy it. Maybe some of you like hanging out for 15 minutes trying to frame your question correctly, and then it hangs up on you and you never get an answer. So I took the time to do this. It probably could have been done in 30 seconds. It took me a couple hours to collect. These are examples of chatbots and just what they do best. There's like Claude AI, as most of you know, ChatGPT-4 now, other programs, and some of them just do things seemingly better than others. So if you have trouble falling asleep at night, you can look through this chart, probably put you asleep right away. And some of this has probably changed. I did this a month ago. The one thing with AI is it's constantly changing. And a lot of companies have more powerful tools that they have already worked on and are developing, but they haven't released them to the public yet. So what you see now, generally with AI, is not the totality of what it can do. So if you're scared by what you see now, wait till tomorrow or next week, because it's going to only get more interesting. So we talked about generative AI and large language models a little bit before, and that's the creation of pictures, lesson plans. Sometimes people take authors' books, upload them to a platform, and then actually can write another book based on a lot of the characters, a lot of the concepts already in the books. And obviously that is causing a big problem because people feel their intellectual property ideas, their rights are being violated. And that also pertains to students. I've been in a few discussions where it's another concern where a student in high school comes up with a great idea using AI, but then others have access to it possibly, and they don't get credit, or somebody just takes it and makes money or whatever from their idea. So that's another challenge for protecting our students. Their ideas get spread and other people use them. Here are some tools, some AI tools that I think everybody's familiar with, but I just wanted to put them up. Gemini used to be Bard. So some of these will change. Their names may change. Some of them use the same data, the same computer systems, actually, for their information. So it's kind of funny sometimes. Somebody will say, I prefer this over this, when actually they're pulling from the same databases and using similar models. So it's kind of strange. Like in education, there's different tools that you can use for developing lesson plans, but they generally pull from the same data. It's just a matter of how they present the features and how they model their algorithms. These are one of the biggest thing about using AI is learning how to write prompts. And this is a skill that's becoming more and more evident. Companies actually pay good money to people who are able to effectively articulate their thoughts and synthesize, analyze results that they get and reframe their questions. And it becomes a very useful tool to be able to write prompts. And That's where the teaching as educators starts to come in. We want to be able to teach our students how to get information from AI tools. We don't want to ban them. A little bit of my opinion, but we want to teach them how to use it wisely and effectively, not exclude them from using it. We want them to be safe and use it wisely, but it's a tool like a calculator, like a Google search, that they're going to need as they progress through school and as they enter college or trade school or whatever they do after K to 12. They're going to need AI tools to help them, and they're going to need the skills to articulate their thoughts and pull information. Language models have limitations. They have biases depending on who inputs the data, who writes the algorithms. They can lack creativity. They start to give the same answer to a lot of people. So individuality sometimes is erased because people keep getting the same answers to questions. They can. Data privacy. One saying I've heard is, if you don't pay for the product, you are the product, because they're collecting your information. And even if you pay for the product, sometimes you're still having your information collected, especially your thoughts. If you put some thoughts in your part, you're just adding your information to the group information. And ethical concerns, there's a lot of challenges to think about. And here are some of the concerns. Due to time, I'm just going to kind of let you look through that for 30 seconds, and we'll go on to the next slide. If you do nothing else as a teacher, try completing your own assignments using AI tools. And this is kind of a good judge, a good feel for, can people complete your whole syllabus for the semester in about 2 hours? You might think about rephrasing how you do your assessments and assignments. This is one of my favorite quotes, kind of back to what I had previously stated. AI won't replace humans, but humans with AI will replace humans without AI. And that's becoming more and more obvious in all fields. Farming, for example, they program their equipment using AI on how to plant, when to plant. And obviously, in just about any place uses AI. So I only have a couple minutes. If somebody could tell me how many minutes I have left.
3 minutes.
3. Okay, well, I will skip. This was I know we're going to do student panel next week, but this is students talking about AI. Really interesting. They felt using AI is still cheating. So that kind of framed how they see it and perceive it. They don't perceive it as a partner yet. They probably will, but a lot of students still feel somehow it's cheating. And I was at a panel yesterday that students felt the same way. These are some tools. I won't have time to go through them. Claude, you can build your own lessons. I'll just quickly give an example. I would take a lesson. This is a lesson I had from pre-K, mix it with the pre-K standards, load them into Claude, and then have it develop a lesson plan to make sure that those standards are included. I could ask for a 5E for those teachers that are familiar, a 5E lesson plan model, a 7E lesson plan model. I could do it in any model. It creates the lesson in about 30 seconds. I could also ask for it to give me supports for multilingual learners, students with IEPs. It includes all those supports and gives you things you can do to help those students. It can even, with Curipod, Magic School, Diffit, they can write letters to your parents. They can do just so many things that make teachers' lives so easy, much easier. Teaching is never easy. I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. Microsoft Copilot, I'll wrap this up, is really put out a lot of great tools. I went to their presentations in the last couple weeks. They have a search tool to help you teach your students and help to teach you how to search, do good searches. They give students problems and help support. It's like your own individual tutor. They don't give you the answers, but they give you steps on how to solve them. You can practice your speeches. You pull up your presentation, and it will record your speech and give you tips on how to become a better speaker. Student Reflect teaches the students how to reflect. Trial versions of the math progress, you can join it. As of last week, you could still try out that. Prompt engineering. Here's some examples of how you would write a good prompt. Here's some other examples. I'm sorry I can't go through these, but I'll finish up. Another page of just put these in, try them out on ChatGPT-4, Claude, and then you reframe. You continue to reframe. You don't just ask once and that's it. You continue to reframe your questions. Great book on how to write prompts. And here's a formula that you can use with your students or yourself. And it breaks it down, your role, and generate voice. I've used this. You can take your voice recorded once, and then you can change it to sound like somebody else. You can take somebody else's voice. This is where the danger comes in, and have them say anything. Have it sound like them and have them say anything. So a lot of you are familiar with deep fakes. This is part of it. There's also videos. So we've probably all heard those during the election process. A nice tool to generate slides. And final thoughts. Obviously, the policies are challenging, and all these have links to them. This has a link to a sample policy created by a district. How do we account for bias? How do we keep humans in the loop? This is critical. People feel their jobs are threatened, and it should be a collaboration between AI and humans. And that's important for a lot of reasons. Impact on creativity. We may all be saying the same thing if we rely on it. And one more slide after this, and I'm finished. These are strategies for teachers on how do you account. AI's here. It's not going away. So when you do assessments, you're going to have to change your assessments, and that's unpleasant. And a lot of teachers don't want to do that, but it's what's coming. And here's how we continue to keep creative, critical thinking, even in the age of AI. So I will stop there. Sorry I went over.
No worries. Thank you so much, Tim. That was some very amazing and awesome information. And if there's time at the end, we can probably come back and you can demonstrate one of those tools. But then also those of you who are here, if you'd like to learn more, there's a lot more that goes into this. We do offer the AI for Educators courses, PD sessions, and we'll have our spring catalog on our website very soon. So you can take a look at that. And if it fits your schedule, you can definitely sign up for one of our sessions. Okay. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and move on to our guest panelists. And I want to give Dr. Sarah Thomas a chance to introduce herself. She joined us a little bit after we started. So Sarah, if you want to take a moment and introduce yourself.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah, and I am a 20-year educator. I've taught every grade from 1st to 12th at some point in my career, as well as in a master's in ed tech program. I am the founder CEO of an organization called EduMatch, which connects educators along similar lines of interest for learning and growing. We recently did our 2nd annual AI Summit, and I learned so much. But I'm super honored to be here and to learn alongside of each of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, so our first question, I'm going to ask this to Ron. What is artificial intelligence in simple terms, and how does it differ from traditional computing?
Thank you, Quiana. And Tim, great job on the presentation. He answered the question about what is artificial intelligence. Basically, the technology where computers and machines are enabled to perform tasks that normally humans would do. So AI, in summary, basically can take and do some of the tasks normally that humans would perform. Traditional computing, we look at coding, programming, writing instructions to solve a problem, and there's a desired solution or resolution. But the difference is traditional computing doesn't learn from the data. It doesn't have the ability to learn from, or the next time that same problem is presented, it's going to give you the same output. It's the same written instructions, doesn't have that learning capacity that AI has. So that's one of the biggest differences between AI, the technology, and traditional computing.
Thank you for that, Ron. Okay, our next question, I'm going to ask Sarah, what are some real-world examples of AI that students might encounter in their daily lives?
Absolutely. And this is such a great question. So I'm going to piggyback off of one thing that Tim was saying earlier, that AI is absolutely not new. It's been around, for many, many decades, and it's been integrated into a lot of the things that we know and love. So some things that students may already be using that is based on AI, voice assistants like Alexa, and I probably don't want to say that too loud in case there's some devices near you all, but the A1, the one on the iPhone, as well as the one on your Androids, so those are voice assistants. So sometimes students might go there for homework help, or to maybe even settle a debate between them and their friends. Streaming recommendations is another thing. So a lot of our students watch shows on Netflix or platforms such as that, and the AI will definitely recommend similar shows for them. As far as social media algorithms along similar lines, I know myself, when I get into Facebook Reels and it keeps on giving me like a brand new video that's just as cool as the one before, and that just ties into how these companies a lot of times are using the power of AI in their algorithm to kind of keep you hooked. And I know that there's a lot of there's pending legislation about things like that as well. But search engines, and also our students have jumped on the bandwagon in large part as far as generative AI, for better or worse. And I think that it can definitely be for better if they are using it in ways that are ethical and helping their productivity, as Tim alluded to. So there's definitely many, many ways that our students are encountering AI.
Thank you, Sarah, for your response. Hey, Jack, I'm going to ask you the same question. What are some real-world examples of AI that students might encounter in their daily lives?
I think that the social media is probably the most prevalent one there. But otherwise, I think like in the classroom, students interacting with chatbots like ChatGPT to better use, research tactics. I think like that's the one thing that I've seen kind of evolve in the last mainly the last year. It's moving really rapidly. But using ChatGPT to make things like outlines. I work really closely with one of the higher level education centers, McDaniel College near Westminster. And that is the biggest growing thing right now, is teaching those students how to use ChatGPT to make their learning more efficient. And then in the end, making their whole learning experience better, getting more out of their education that they're paying a lot more for.
Thank you, Jack. And Maria, what are your thoughts on this question?
Well, I think you guys pretty much covered everything I was going to say. The only thing I want to add to it is so my classrooms, in my role, I don't have a classroom I go to. I partner with organizations, and I work with kind of all populations, everybody. So what I find the trend with AI is there's a lot of fear around it. And most people don't realize they're using it every single day. But most of us have been using it every single day for a very long time. A great example of that is Google Maps. We all use Google Maps, or the weather, right? Utilizing AI to predict weather patterns, flu patterns. So, we're all using it all the time. You guys mentioned some really great tools that are specific, I think, to younger students, but in general, we're all students right now learning AI, and we all use it all the time. So just demystifying some of that, I think, is very imperative to making progress.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, so the next question, and Jack, I'm going to ask you this question. How can AI be used to personalize learning experiences for students?
I think that I see this the most when teaching older adults. We use various different AI platforms to aid in their learning. But I think most prevalently, I use it to kind of let the seniors learn at their own pace. And the AI kind of decides, when they're ready to move up to the next subject, most prevalently in North Star digital literacy. It gives them a kind of like a baseline, and then you kind of build off of that afterwards. So maybe they're struggling on one thing at the start. It kind of outlines what things they need to work on. So that's where I see it the most and find it to be very effective.
Thank you, Jack. And Tim, I want to hear your thoughts on this. How can AI be used to personalize learning experiences for students?
I think very soon we're going to start helping students write their own IEPs, their individual learning plans, where they can take text from a textbook and put it into maybe 2 grade levels lower. Say a 5th grade student who struggles with reading can take the text and put it into a 3rd grade level. They can take it and put it into another language that may be their native language. They can do multiple things using AI. And as teachers, they will be taught how to use AI, like I said, to maximize learning. And if I can do a quick shout out to Caleb Wilson, who is here today, who's taught me so much and helped with those slides. Just thanks, Caleb.
Thank you, Tim. And yes, shout out to Caleb. So Ron, I'm going to ask you this question. What are some ethical considerations when using AI in education, and how can we address them?
Very good question. First thing comes to mind is the data security privacy issues. Trying to get a handle around a framework that addresses those issues. And I think you have schools and districts are trying to coming out with some policy. I put a link in the chat of some current framework for teaching AI in the classroom, and I also I'll send you a link about what states are doing by as far as policies are concerned. There's regulatory concerns, as now you have some list standards that have been published. Let me send this out to everyone. And so I think this is an ongoing concern about data security and privacy. Tim mentioned it in the slides about addressing that. And so the ethics and biases fall in place as well. So those are areas that, it's a difficult problem to solve because of the ever-changing world of AI. So what might be compliant today, a regulatory procedure or instrument today, may not be applicable next year, next month.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, our next question, and this is for Sarah and Jack. How can AI be used to support teachers in their instructional practices?
Yeah, there's many ways that AI can be used to support educators. One way is in terms of differentiation, things like leveling text, making text more accessible, putting in scaffolding, things of that nature to help differentiate the content delivery. And there are many tools that do that automatically. There's also tools that are kind of more open-ended, such as, many of the ones that Tim had mentioned earlier. He kind of gave a good mix of both tools, but some of them, you just press a button and it differentiates for you. Some of them you might go in and say, okay, I want this adjusted to such and such a level, by using your prompt engineering. So differentiation would definitely be one. Also saving time, productivity. So when it comes to generating some novel ideas, whereas it might take me an hour without AI, then, with AI, with the help of AI, then it might be reduced down to 5 or so minutes. So time-saving tools, also lesson enhancements. Right before this, I was doing an AI workshop, and the example that I brought up is that I was in the classroom for 10 plus years. And when I stopped within the classroom itself, I was still kind of young-ish, so I still kind of knew what my students were into. However, if I were to go in right now, I'd be totally lost. So one thing that AI might help me do is to get myself more current in terms of their interests, and be able to infuse that into the lesson to help bolster engagement. So those are just a few of the things.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, Jack, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I wanna build off of the productivity as far as like curriculum building and planning. Using a real world example, of somebody that's close to me. My dad's educator in the Baltimore County Public Schools for over 20 years. I grew up hearing all the stories about him teaching and having to plan like hours around the dining room table, just kind of commiserating about all the stuff that he's got to do by hand. And one evening I was like, Dad, have you tried using AI to build some of this curriculum stuff? It's like, no. So I showed it to him. He started using it. Next thing I know, he's coming back to me saying like the whole English department at this middle school is now using AI to do a lot of this curriculum building. So thinking about how to support teachers, saving time, making it a lot easier. And he was like, some of the stuff that the AI is putting out there is better than all the other stuff that we had planned for this year. So not only is it saving time, it's also giving more valuable resources to the students that are being taught, and that's across all different counties.
Thank you, Jack. And we're glad your dad is using learn how to make his work a little bit more efficient. All right, so Sarah, this question is for you. What are some potential challenges and limitations of using AI in education?
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought up this question, because, when something has a potential, not just a potential, when something is a disruptor, a game changer, then it's very important to look at it from all sides, and be critical consumers before we implement it. So there are a few different things that came to mind. One of them is the privacy. So in terms of inputting personally identifiable information, PII, then that's one thing that we definitely need to steer away from, because a lot of times these models are being trained on the inputs. So staying away from using the PII. In addition, equity is a topic near and dear to my heart. So not all students have access to some of these tools sometimes, especially in terms of the premium features. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And it came up in conversation that sometimes parents may not understand or may not want to utilize because they don't understand. They may not want to let their students utilize these tools, so they're at risk of kind of falling behind what other students may be allowed to do. In addition, bias is a huge concern, because the chatbots, they are programmed by humans, and we as human beings were flawed. So a lot of times the AI will also reflect those flaws. So that's another thing that we need to keep in mind, being critical consumers of the output, and really having that human touch, and not just saying, okay, well, this is what it said, so this is what it is. So, knowing that we need to go in and verify. In addition, another problem that I tend to hear a lot is about over reliance. So sometimes, it's very tempting, as it was when Google first came up and you could just search things online, to copy and paste. I had a lot of my students going to Wikipedia and just copying and pasting, thinking I wouldn't know. And now with AI, it might be a little harder to ascertain that. But, I definitely echo the sentiment that that knowing how to use these tools and leveraging them and having that background knowledge ourselves, is something that we want to ingrain in our students so that they can use it to maximize their talents and not over rely on it.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay,
Thank you.
Maria, same question to you. How can educators prepare students for a future shaped by AI?
Maria, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I swear I know how to use this platform. But I was just saying that, I'm so inspired by everything you guys are saying on this call, on this webinar. This has been really incredible. Sarah, you definitely covered a lot of the bases. But I think using AI requires critical thinking skills that we really need in today's society, across all populations. There's a lot of mis and disinformation out there, and getting good at AI requires the same skills as getting good at sifting through that misinformation. We need to teach students how to evaluate information critically. We need to explain how it works and focus on the decision-making skills rather than the memorization. We don't need to focus as much in education on memorizing every little detail. We have computers for that now. So if we utilize AI in the right way and encourage critical thinking skills, I think we can prepare students to use it wisely and navigate the digital world effectively.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, next question. What are the potential societal impacts of AI, and how can we ensure that they are positive? Maria, what are your thoughts on that?
So, kind of piggybacking off of what everybody said, I think it's going to make things really fast. Like, productivity is going to ramp up because we're not going to be spending so much time on menial tasks. And I think going kind of into the equity piece of it, due to the anxiety around AI, a lot of people are going to not invest the time in using it. And I think getting that education piece in there, teaching people how to use it, that we're not at the level of Terminator yet. We're not in super intelligence yet. And debunking some of that fear, I think, is going to be what we need to do in order to ensure that everybody is caught up to speed by the time it really hits. Because education in general, the workforce is going to be completely different 5 years from now. And we need to really embrace that and accept it.
Thank you, Maria. Tim, what are your thoughts?
You still have to know the content. And I think that's getting overlooked with AI. You can't just look things up and be an expert in one day. You have to understand that it's not infallible, whatever you're using. You have to really check. You should. I get a feeling people are not going to. They're just going to take it. Like when the internet became more prevalent, the saying was, don't believe everything you read on the internet. Well, don't believe everything that AI regurgitates to you, because it might not be correct. And also, one thing we haven't talked about, I was in a meeting with some of the people from the state committee yesterday on AI and some other people from around the state. And the power grid demands, the tremendous amount of energy that is used behind the scenes of AI that nobody talks about is going to be life-changing. And it's going to really disrupt some things. And so AI may get dialed back, so to speak, in a way that doesn't cause so much of a disruption. But I'll let that, but that's something to look up if you're not familiar. Between Bitcoin and AI, the resources used to supply that are just unbelievable. And they're going to change people's lives, but that's not talked about. But yeah, just making sure that you learn outside of AI so that you can verify what you're seeing, and using different platforms. And back to Sarah's point, there are biases. So check with just like you would check with different books, and different authors and other resources. Check with different platforms. Don't be married to one platform and only use that, because you might miss out on some things. So
Thank you, Tim. And we're coming to the end of our panel discussion, but I do want to give Ron and Jack a moment to give any final thoughts.
I just want to chime in on something Tim mentioned about the future of AI in education, and that was the personalized learning. I spoke to a principal, I think a year or two ago, and there was 12 different languages spoken at her school. And she was talking about some of the challenges she had to, teach in some form of equity for those students. And I just thought about how AI could probably be a solution for assisting in teaching and instructing those students from all those different languages. So when Tim mentioned that, it just kind of brought back that conversation from a couple of years ago.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you for that. Jack, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think I just wanted to bring it back to that quote that Tim had in his presentation. AI won't replace humans, but humans with AI will replace humans without the AI. It kind of resonated with me, especially after yesterday, or like twice this week, just teaching some older adults. And thinking about how this has got to be like even crazier for folks who grew up using the whole evolution of technology, and trying to get them in touch with AI, because so much of like the medical world is going online, the financial side of the world, and there's a lot of different groups of people that have all different kinds of needs. Just making sure that we service everybody, get everybody caught up. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Maria, do you have any final thoughts?
No, this has been great. And I agree with Jack. I mean, that quote really resonated with me as well. I think your whole presentation, Tim, was fabulous. I want to sit through it all over again. So, thank you. Thank you guys. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Maria. Sarah, do you have any final thoughts?
I just wanted to echo what Maria just said. I wanted to thank everyone for sharing today. I've learned so much alongside each of you, and also seeing the comments in the chat, that were very illuminating as well. And I guess my parting thought would be that one way that we can help our students prepare for a future shaped by AI is to be prepared ourselves. So just being those lifelong learners and learning and growing and staying as informed as we can.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, Tim, you have any final thoughts? You have a few minutes if you want to show one of the tools that you mentioned in the slideshow presentation.
yeah, in respect to Jack and his father, I will try, and Jack can give me some tips if he wants. I'll try to go through, I'll share my screen and try to take a look at one of the tools real quickly. I'll go with Claude, and like I said, I'll take, hopefully this works. So I'm just going to type in, for those of you that haven't done this, I'll just type in develop a lesson plan for 3rd grade students. Sorry, I have to talk and type at the same time. To introduce fractions. And this is just the surface of what you could do. Like I said, I could download a lesson plan and adjust it. Like I said, Jack, if you have any tips here in a minute, you're welcome to give me some tips. So it gives me some general ideas. And this is where learning how to articulate your thoughts and prompt engineering really start coming into play, because you don't stop once you put in one idea. This is where you're interacting. It's like your friend, your partner. So I can put this in a 5E lesson plan, or I could use 7E or whatever model I wanted. So it's going to reframe it, put it, for those of you that are familiar with the 5E plan, that's pretty much it. This is something when you're going to get it observed for your formal observation, which many of us hated when we were teachers, not hated, but nervous. And I can put in give me support, kind of to Ron's idea, for multilingual learners. Make sure I spell things right. That kind of helps. And then it's going to list some supports. I could put in supports for, and it gives me examples, sentence starters, sentence frames, visuals, gives me a whole list of things. So in that tremendous amount of time I just spent, like 60 seconds, I could do what before would take me, Jack, you can pipe in what, an hour? Not even, seriously,
Yeah.
that would take an hour or more, easily more. What do you think, Jack, if I can throw you in here?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, this stuff used to take upwards of, 2 to 3 hours of work time. And that's time that's like, being spent at home too. Which should be time for like relaxing. So just seeing it again here come out in just about a minute, is really promising. I think your prompts were good, looking good.
And the more I work with it, the better I'm going to get at writing prompts. And this is actually a class that I think people should take, and they will take in the future, is prompt engineering as part of their teaching program, or whatever, finances. If you work on Wall Street, if you work as a doctor, you're going to have to know these things. And some of them have to know them now, but in the next year or two, I would venture to say just about every profession is going back to that slide, that you're going to be replaced by somebody that knows how to do it. And that's just a reality. It's not mean. It's just, it's the way it is. And just one more quick one, if I have time, go to something like Curipod, which is more focused just for teachers. That was Claude that I used, which is open-ended, and you could use it for anything. Curipod is more focused. It can write emails. It can write do a lot of the things you like to do, but this is one of my favorite. You can become a Curipod ambassador and go to trainings with Magic School or DFID or whatever and really learn more about it if you want. But this is a lesson that I created beforehand, so it wouldn't take quite as much time. But here's your objective, your standards are covered, everything as a teacher that you could want. And like I said, this is nice when I'm getting observed. I can, in 30 seconds, do what used to take me when I was getting observed 2 or 3 hours, because I wanted to make sure all my look fors were there and all the things. And yeah, now I can actually have a life possibly on the weekend because I'm not sitting there writing lesson plans. But this is actually interactive with Curipod. Each student gets a copy. This is like the old Pear Deck, if you remember, or I'm blanking on the other one, but Nearpod paired, or Google Slides. It creates this for you so the students can follow along and you can record what they answer. And this took me a grand total of less than 60 seconds to do. And it goes through the writing prompts are unbelievable on these sites. And Magic School, I'll go back and it's the same as, I'll do Conmigo just for some variety. But Conmigo can do tutorials for your students. You can give them like problems on fractions with 1/4, and it takes it through and it guides them to the answer. It doesn't give them the answer, it guides them. But it can do all these tools for teachers. Conmigo is free for teachers. I don't get money for this. So this is just sharing. And they can do all kinds of things. Back to Ron's point, when you have that group of 12 students with 12 different languages, you can do a lot, modify your lesson plans through tools like Claude, and they have some differentiation tools in each of these. So I'll stop there. I love talking about those, but
Thank you, Tim. And we do have some questions in the chat for you, Tim. The first one is, how do you match the lesson plan with the standards? Is that part of the profile you would make to use the site?
Yeah, some of them let you pick the state standards. With Claude, you could just upload your standards into the tool, the platform, and then have them matched. So I took the pre-K standards and I just copied them, and then I pasted them into Claude, and I said include these in the lesson plan after I did the lesson plan. And you could just take a lesson plan you already had, just a generic one, and include the standards, include the differentiation. Hopefully that answers the question, whoever asked that.
Thank you, Tim. And we have another question. How do you make the lesson plan data driven?
You could, this could be risky if I'm understanding the question. You don't want to put student-specific information in there. You want to be careful about names, anything like that, but you could take the results and it can track. You can have it track the results and give you suggestions, or just take the results of a test and how the students did and input it and ask for ideas and what should I do, and different, this group of students I should do this with, and this group of students something else. And hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, so we just have just a few minutes left. So I do want to invite the audience to ask any questions that they may have. So you can put it in the chat if you have any questions for any of our guest panelists or our guest speaker today. Okay, I was using the teacher wait time. I don't see anything in the chat. So I do again want to thank our panelists, our guest panelists, and our guest speaker for joining us today, and for each of you for coming out and being a part of this webinar. So we do hope that you learned something new or kind of remembered something old. So again, thank you so much for joining us. And the slideshow presentation is in the chat, and also there is a survey for you to complete as well. So thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you
Take
all
care.
so much.
See ya.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Take care. Bye-bye.